Welcome back to Donington Park for race 2 of the weekend, round 2 of the championship for the Ginetta GT Academy, the entry-level Ginetta racing series, which had their season opener yesterday. An entertaining race it was, and race number 2 we're hoping will provide more of the same good, close racing with this Ginetta G56 car, which has been used now, entering its 5th season actually, in the GT Academy Championship anyway. And the V6 engine, 270 brake horsepower, Ginetta G56s even, get my teeth in, have provided a great jumping on point for drivers over those 4 and now a bit years. And we've seen some really talented drivers move through these ranks, and a whole host of newcomers as well joining the series for 2026. The race yesterday, won by Charlie Digby, fairly convincingly in the end, 1.8 seconds his winning margin over Jamie Cordell, with Alex Deaton in 3rd. Deaton had a real scrap towards the end of the race with James Nicholas. James Nicholas, who was the Palmer Sport Scholarship winner last year, and he just missed out on a podium, unfortunately, in the season opener this season. Of course, he was a winner at the season opener in 2024. James Nicholas back for another crack at the title in 25, and he was followed home, actually, in 5th position by this year's Palmer Sport Scholarship winner, Sam Shrimpton, who was very impressive indeed. Sam didn't qualify particularly well for that race yesterday, but charged through the order to finish in 5th position, and the best of the rookie class drivers as well. So we'll be watching with interest to see what he can do in this second 20-minute race of the weekend. The cars are out on their green flag lap. The grid is based upon the second fastest lap times from qualifying, so it's not the order in which they finished yesterday's race. Yesterday's winner, Charlie Digby, for example, will not be starting from pole position. He is, though, on the front row. It's Jamie Cordell who has pole. Charlie Digby, therefore, alongside him, with Shiv Sapra starting 3rd. Shiv Sapra went well in the early stages, it seemed, yesterday, but then ended up off the road on a restart after a red flag at turn 1. Paul Livesey starts alongside him on row 2. Then Nick Ponting and Mike West together on the 3rd row of the grid, with Louis Darling and Alex Deaton row 4. So Deaton further back than you would expect. He was the Chairman's Cup winner yesterday as well, and 3rd overall. Ben Cook and James Nicholas row 5. Nicholas also not qualifying as well as we perhaps expected him to. Joe Edge and Sam Shrimpton are next. Shrimpton starting on the 6th row, but we know should move forward from there. Phil McGarty and Julian Wadling on row 7. Julian had issues before the race even started yesterday, but did get out there in the end to finish in 11th place. Alan Wright and Lucy Hodgson are next, with Robin Grimwood, Damien Duffy and the impressive Peter Thompson at the back of the grid. I'll say impressive Peter Thompson because he was right in the thick of it yesterday. Came home in the end, I seem to recall, with a reasonably disappointing result given the pace that he'd had. Yes, he was a late non-finisher, retiring in fact on the last lap of the race, but he had been on form up until that point and engaging in some pretty entertaining on-track battles. So as the cars head up through Coppice Corner and around to grid up on the front row, Charlie Digby. Charlie Digby, former Ginetta Junior and Ginetta GT5 racer, actually, has had a bit of a racing sabbatical over the last 4 or 5 years, but good to have him back on track and back in a Ginetta as well. Onboard camera there with Joe Edge. Joe Edge, one of the Want to Race drivers, his first season of racing in 2025. We've also got one on board car number 14, that is Charlie Digby, who I just mentioned will be starting from pole position. Charlie hasn't raced anything until 2018, or at least hadn't until yesterday, and got straight back to winning ways on his return. Jamie Cordell, who was 2nd yesterday, starts on pole, so we basically reversed the top 2 from yesterday's finishing order, and that forms the grid, at least on the front row. Jamie Cordell, who had a podium here at Donington last year. It was that really interesting wet to dry race where there was a bit of a mix on tyres. I mentioned Peter Thompson earlier on. Peter was running 2nd for a long time in that race on wet tyres, and Jamie Cordell, amongst a few others, came charging through on the slicks and managed to snatch the victory towards the end of the afternoon. Right then, ready to go racing. 20 minutes on the clock. Round 2 of the Ginetta GT Academy Championship. Jamie Cordell, the turquoise, black and white car on pole. Charlie Digby starting alongside in the white and blue. Who will win the race to Redgate Corner? Let's find out. The red lights go out. It's pretty even by the looks of it, but I would say Digby has his nose ahead. Yes, he does on the outside line, but not enough to get over to the inside to take command of the race. He is late on the brakes, sails into the corner, and I think might have just done that round the outside. Let's see. No, they're still side by side. Digby and Jamie Caudle going door handle to door handle through Hollywood and down the Crater Curves. We turn left initially. That will favour Digby, but then we go right at the old hairpin. It doesn't matter though, because Caudle's already swept by him and defends the race lead, but really had to put up a defence there in the opening few corners. Out a little bit wide goes the 42 of Mike West, the E3 Sport car, but fending off the two cars immediately behind, one of which is the 25 of Louis Darling, who was in trouble yesterday with a gravelly trip, which ended his race, unfortunately. Through McLean's corner they go. There is the Palmer Sport car of Sam Shrimpton. Shrimpton started 12th. I'd say he's already gained a couple of spots from there. Yes, 10th position at the end of Sector 1, so he's picked up 2 positions, looking to gain another one maybe at the expense of James Nicholas, who actually has only gained 1 from his 10th place starting spot, and they are indeed side by side towards the chicane. Look to the outside, Shrimpton. On the inside line is, sorry, that's Louis Darling actually, I beg your pardon. So Louis Darling slipping back through ahead of Shrimpton in the number 25 machine. James Nicholas actually a second or so up the road, just on the back of this sort of lead bunch, which descends upon the Melbourne hairpin for the first time. Shrimpton again peaks to the inside, a very wide line in for Louis Darling. And that's going to leave the door wide open, I think, for the Palmer Sport Park car to get alongside. We're on board there with Joe Edge. He's got a good view of Julian Wantling going door to door with Ben Cook just ahead of him. Julian Wantling, the number 1, as the reigning champion. Didn't get his title defence off to the best of starts yesterday, though, with power steering troubles in qualifying. We think that may have then bled into his race preparation when he had to start from the pit lane, and actually had it not been for a red flag, which gave the team a bit longer to work on the car, he might not have even gone out there at all. So Darling does, for now, get the better of Shrimpton by the looks of it. Yes, closes the door through Hollywood and then sort of weaves back over to the outside to try and block again. Got to be careful not to move more than once. That can get you in trouble. But I think that was just about okay. And Sam Shrimpton also tried to take second place in class here. Someone's been on the dirt. That was, not sure who that was actually. Someone just inside the top 5, maybe the 27 car. I think it was, wasn't it? Deaton, Alex Deaton, who ran a little bit wide and has therefore lost a place, has he, to his teammate Shiv Sapra. It might have been the other way round, actually. Sapra, I think it was, who's been off, and Deaton trying to take advantage. Yes, lots of gravel coming from below the number 8 car. That's a telltale sign. He's washing wide on dirty tyres as well. He's still in 4th place, but Alex Deaton keen to try and get past him here. The Zentech Motorsport teammates almost getting an overlap down the exhibition straight, but Shiv Sapra does manage to hang on. Shiv is the rookie class leader in a sea of GTA class drivers. There's no difference in the cars between classes, it's just driver experience. The rookie class sort of does what it says on the tin, doesn't it, really, for the brand new drivers. And a couple of the GTA class drivers swapping places just behind him. That's James Nicholas on the inside of Mike West, who runs wide over the grass. He's going to lose another place now to, was that Louis Darling still behind? Anyway, the Ponting it is actually who's run wide in the number 7, so they'd all change positions actually in that group. Now to the outside goes Louis Darling in the blue and white number 25 car. He's left plenty of space in fairness, and that means he's got a good run down the main straight towards Redgate Corner. Sam Shrimpton tried to join in the fun as well. He's the 3rd car in that packers. Up the inside for 4th place goes Alex Deaton on his Zentech Motorsport teammate, who tried to close the door, couldn't, and now ends up losing another place, because through also comes James Nicholas, who really has made some good progress on that lap. James Nicholas was in the sort of next pack behind the last time we saw him. He's now nearly in the front of the battle for 4th position. So down the hill they go, through the old hairpin. 27, Alex Deaton into P4, James Nicholas into 5th, down to 6th for Shiv Sapra. So it's all changed in that second little pack of cars. This is the lead battle, though, and it is a battle still, isn't it? Because Charlie Digby is very much going with Jamie Caudle here. Digby, the winner yesterday, like I said, by 1.8 seconds, but there wasn't a lot to choose between them. It really was only in the final 5 minutes or so of that restarted race that Digby was properly able to extend the margin. And Jamie Caudle not really going anywhere in the first part of this race, and that bodes well maybe for Digby later on if he's got that long run pace that he had yesterday. The chicane down towards the Melbourne hairpin they will go. I don't think Digby is quite close enough yet to make the attack into the right-handed hairpin. No, he's not. They've got to keep an eye on Livesey as well. Paul Livesey's not a million miles back in third position. Oh, and off has gone the 81. That's Phil McGarty. That's the chicane, is it not? Now, he's not actually in the gravel trap. He's not made it that far. So once he fires the car back up and finds reverse gear, I'm hopeful he'll get that car out of the way without the need for a safety car interruption. But another drama now at 63, was it? Ben Cook down at the very next corner, the Melbourne hairpin. McGarty has got the car moving again. That's good news. One of the half dozen or so Chairman's Cup entrants this weekend. Chairman's Cup being led by Livesey, still in third place. As the leaders head down through the crater curves towards the old hairpin. Let's take a look at what happened to Phil McGarty. Here he comes over the curb, a bit too much of the curb on the left-hander, and unsettles the car, and he never makes the right-hand element of the chicane. The car by this point is heading for the grass, mercifully not the gravel trap, hence how he was able to get going again. That's Livesey off now from third place. Oh, and gets collected fairly substantially by Mike West, so that car is going no further. Mike West's car, you have to imagine, will have a bit of damage as well. There will be yellow flags out there, but some drivers paying more attention to that than others, and that's a really unfortunate incident. So Livesey then, who was running in third place, now was about to make the point, was not a million miles behind these leading two. Well, he's had a big drama down at the old hairpin, and well, a fairly big drama to start with the spin. Then it suddenly got even worse when he was collected by another car. That may, I fear, need a safety car. There's Mike West's car. Wow, it's torn the left rear corner off the car. Livesey is trying to get going again, but I think even if he does get the car out of the way, the bigger concern is all of the debris that's left on the road. That's why the safety car there is being scrambled. But I'm amazed both of those cars are still running. That is remarkable. If they can both limp back to the pit lane, that is a real testament to how strong these Ginetta G56s are. Look at the state of the rear end of Paul Livesey's car. That has done a lot of damage to the bodywork, but actually the tracking doesn't seem too bad, and he's still running at a fairly decent pace as he tries to make his way, I'll say, back to the pit lane. Surely he won't try and carry on in the race. There's Mike West crabbing back. I think his car came out of that even worse, to be fair. The driver's side door has been popped open. And the rear bodywork, actually very similar damage, really, to West's car as it was to Livesey's. Let's try and piece this together then, because we cut to this quite late. Here comes Livesey, already out of control, loops it, and then just digs the front wheels into the gravel trap. Here comes Mike West, fully committed to the corner. In fairness, that looks a lot more dramatic than it is. I don't think any wheels touched other wheels there. I think it was just the left rear corner of both cars making contact, but only the bodywork rather than anything more substantial. So a lot of bits of Ginetta to be picked up off the road, but actually I think both of those cars should be able to recover themselves back to the pit lane. In fact, Mike West is already back in the pit lane, and I can see on the circuit tracker that Paul Livesey is about to join him there. So very impressive that both drivers got the cars back. Whether we'll see either of them out for race 3 later on awaits to be seen, but I am hopeful that it's mainly cosmetic damage where the E3 team go to work. Sport team, I should say, to give them their full title. There goes Paul Livesey through as well. And Paul Livesey will head to the MDD racing end of the pit lane. There is now the primary reason for the safety car. All of that bodywork that is strewn across the road at the old hairpin needs to be recovered and swept away pretty thoroughly, because that can very easily cut down a tyre and cause even more carnage. So, good news in a way this for Jamie Cordle, because he was really starting to feel the pressure there from Charlie Digby. Charlie was just set the fastest lap of the race, actually, on the previous tour, a 1 minute 43.0. And he was really starting to size up the race leader, I felt. And, of course, what this also does is now bring the third place man, Alex Deaton, into the picture. Deaton got to the front of the fourth place battle not long before the incident occurred. A proper look there at the back of Mike West's car. They're taping the door back up, surely not with any intention of sending the car back onto the track. I would imagine just to keep the driver secure as he tours back to the paddock. They're now going to try and fit the rear body. If this car finishes this race, that is one of the most astonishing things I'll have ever seen. It really does. Mike is still in the car, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they've told him to get out. Granted, he would have to drive the car back to the paddock anyway. The Ginetta's all based in the paddock rather than the pit garages. Paul Livesey's car, I've had a report, is back in the paddock, but I think the E3 Sport team are intending on getting Mike West back out on track, which is remarkable if that's the case. You do score points, though, if you're within the top 20 finishers in your class. Well, Mike West is in the GTA class. There are only 13 entrants this weekend in GTA. Say only, that's still a decent number, but the point is there are fewer than 20. So as long as he can finish the race and completes the minimum number of laps required, he would score some championship points. So that's why they want to get him back out there. Anyway, race about to get back underway. The safety car heads for the pit lane, and Jamie Cordell now has the job of restarting the race with just under half of it to go. 9 minutes 40 seconds remaining in round number 2 of the Ginetta GT Academy. Mike West is now, I'm afraid, admitting defeat. He's getting out of the car through the door they'd just taped shut. So they've had to undo that repair work in order to get him out of the car. Jamie Cordell, meanwhile, takes a very wide, a very slow run through Goddard. That didn't really work until Charlie Digby got a little bit of oversteer as he hit the loud pedal. That has now stretched the margin between the two of them. Deaton's under threat from James Nicholas, who narrowly missed out on a podium yesterday, wants to try and undo that in race number 2. Goes to the outside into Redgate corner, looking maybe for the switchback on the way out of the turn, which he will get, and straight on goes someone further back. That is Louis Darling, who just did not slow down for Redgate corner. He's almost made the barriers at the outside edge of the road, and he is going no further, surely. James Nicholas somehow didn't get past Alex Deaton. It looked as though Deaton had had a big wobble on the apex of Redgate corner that had opened the door for James, but James not able to close the move, and so stays in 4th position. Cordell remains the race leader. Charlie Digby on his tail as they turn through. McLean's wide again, is Deaton in 3rd, but still keeping James Nicholas at bay. Has James got the inside line for Coppice? The answer is no. Deaton, though, making this a very, very wide Ginetta G56 as he tries to hang on to 3rd position, which of course is where he finished yesterday. So at the moment we have the same 3 drivers in the podium places. The only difference being the top 2 have reversed. Cordell was runner-up yesterday. He leads them into the chicane this time around. There is a live snatching operation at Redgate corner to get Louis Darling's car out of harm's way, so no need for a safety car, hopefully. The race can continue, albeit with yellow flags out at the first corner. Leaders then into the Melbourne hairpin. Who's going to make a move to the inside? The answer is nobody, actually. They're all line astern until you get to Sam Shrimpton, who's actually tried the outside line on Joe Edge. This is the battle for 8th position now, with the demise of Louis Darling. Again, James Nicholas hunting around on the inside line there into the final corner at Goddard's, but there's no route through for the time being. Onto the main straight they go. Lead gap just under 0.4 of a second, and that equates to roughly a card length or so as they hit the brakes into the first turn, where there are, of course, yellow flags. That's why the body language of the cars looks a little bit less aggressive. I was going to say there's the reason for the yellow flag, but they've almost got that car out of the way. There is Louis Darling's car being dragged behind the barriers. There's a little opening in the fence that you can see near the marshal's post. They'll pull the car through there, and by the time the field arrives at Redgate corner next time, there will be green flags flying once again. Leaders down at the old hairpin. And this is really the point in the race yesterday where Digby started to look a little bit stronger than Cordell. I'd say the same is true now this morning. He's closed right in. It goes to the inside from a long way back at McLean's. He can't get the car stopped, though. That move came out of absolutely nowhere. It surprised Cordell. I think Digby maybe surprised himself as well. Maybe he just missed his braking point. But anyway, he briefly led the race, slides back down to 2nd, and is immediately under threat from Alex Deaton in 3rd, who can't believe his luck. He was nearly 2 seconds behind the top 2 a lap ago, and now here he is challenging for 2nd place. He won't be able to get alongside into the chicane, though. And, well, error, really, of judgment there for Charlie Digby. Deaton just clatters into the tyre stack ever so slightly. Does that give James Nicholas the momentum that he needs to make the move? He's looking to the inside. Deaton's got that covered, though. James Nicholas getting increasingly frustrated here. I think he knows he's quicker than Deaton, but just can't quite find an opening. The inside goes Sam Shrimpton. He tried the outside on Joe Edge down at the Melbourne hairpin a lap ago. That didn't work, but now he has found a way through, and that's 8th position that goes his way. There was a screeching of tyres. This is why Lucy Hodgson has had a spin. Lucy Hodgson off the track. So is James Nicholas, who had got himself ahead of Alex Deaton there and then undid it all on his own, running wide out of Goddard's, and Deaton goes back through. So James Nicholas will be doubly frustrated now because he was ahead when we cut to him, but he was also headed for the scenery. Drops back down into 4th place. The lead gap, by the way, is only 0.9 of a second, because in the final sector alone, Digby was 0.6 quicker than the race leader Cordell. So at that rate, he'll be with him again in no time. Off has gone Ben Cook, I don't think for the first time in this race. That's on the exit, the inside of the final corner. A slightly odd place to end up. So Battles continue then. Third place scrap ongoing here. James Nicholas heads towards McLean's corner. Does he try the Digby lunge? Well, he doesn't have to because Dayton is nowhere near the apex. This time, finally, the door is open on the inside line for James Nicholas, and I think he's going to make third place his own. Slips through into Coppice corner, makes the apex, doesn't run wide on the exit, and James Nicholas at last gets into a podium place. But Alex Deaton put up a really strong fight up until that point. So as Nicholas breaks into third, we can now maybe focus on the leaders because that gap is down to almost nothing now. Digby with a purple middle sector can only be half a second or so adrift of the race leader. There's Shiv Sapra on the tail now of his teammate, but there, look, the leaders absolutely together as they turn into the Melbourne hairpin. 4.5 minutes, just less than that now to go. And it's game on once again at the front of the pack. Shiv Sapra, by the way, the rookie class leader still, although only by a couple of positions now. He's got Nick Ponting and Julian Wantling behind him, both of whom are GTA class drivers, and then Sam Shrimpton and Joe Edge, who are second and third respectively in the rookies. So if Sapra were to lose a couple of places, or if Shrimpton and Edge were to gain a couple, it would be game on for the rookie class victory. The overall race victory, that certainly has closed down. It was 9/10, it's 4/10 of a second now as they begin lap number 9. The aforementioned Nick Ponting and Julian Wantling here doing battle with Sam Shrimpton trying to take advantage, sticks his nose where it wasn't really wanted up the inside at Redgate. It didn't deter Julian Wantling though, who turns defence into attack immediately and gets a much superior exit from the corner than Nick Ponting and will drag his way through, I believe. Yes, Julian Wantling into 6th position now. Shrimpton wants to try and follow him by, can't make the move into the old hairpin, but Ponting again is a bit wide on the exit, and that will surely allow the Palmer Sport backed driver to blast through on the run up the hill. He's got the inside line for McLean's when we get there. Joe Edge has got ringside seats for this and does indeed follow Shrimpton through, I believe. Well, he's certainly got to the inside of Ponting, who is hemorrhaging places here. Has he got that covered off before Coppice? Yes, he has. Gets to the middle of the road and keeps the number 13 machine behind for now. So easy, though, especially for relatively inexperienced drivers such as these to fall out of the rhythm when you get overtaken, you get dirt on your tyres, suddenly your references are all a little bit wrong, and Ponting, I think, suffering from that ever so slightly there. So through the chicane they go. And into the hairpin, someone's off. That was Joe Edge, was it? Or is it Sapra? No, I think it was Joe Edge, the number 13. Yes, it was. And he might now lose a place to Robin Grimwood, who is to the inside of him. Yes, he is. Peter Thompson trying to follow him through as well. Peter, as I said, was a late retiree yesterday, but still going for now with just over a couple of laps still remaining. Is he going to get past Joe Edge? Yes, he is. Thompson late on the brakes, parks the car on the inside line at Goddard's. And Joe Edge suddenly finds himself several positions now behind the second place man in the rookie class with whom he was fighting. With a black and white warning flag for the second place man, Charlie Digby, and a fastest lap set by James Nicholas. So actually Digby dropped a tenth to Caudle that time and was 8 tenths slower than James Nicholas. Nicholas was half a second quicker than the race leader, so James Nicholas might not be out of this yet. He's 2 seconds off the race lead, but he's chasing down the leading two pretty rapidly. There are the leading two. So Caudle and Digby 6 tenths of a second. Nicholas, well, they're all about the same pace in the first sector, so he's still 1.5 seconds back. There he is. Palmer Sport scholarship winner a year ago, James Nicholas. There's confirmation of that fastest lap, a 1:42.380, the lap record around here. I don't think he's going to be troubled this weekend because we were a couple of seconds away from that in yesterday's race. So I don't think we're going to see the lap records tumbling. It was a 1:41.7 by Ravi Rammeed a couple of years ago. So yeah, we're still half a second or so away from that pace, but James Nicholas pushing on as he tries to close in on the leading two. They're almost equidistantly spaced out now, aren't they? Caudle to Digby is about the same gap as Digby back to Nicholas, who isn't setting the world alight in the sectors this time, but to the eye is definitely closer to the second place man than he was a lap ago. We are about, though, to start the final lap of the race, so he's running out of time if he wants to get 1 or maybe 2 steps higher on the podium. Has Digby got an answer for Caudle, I wonder? having very, very briefly led a few laps ago. Well, he's closed in through the final part of that lap. Over the course of the entire lap, he was only a tenth quicker than the leader, but the final sector is where he's really strong, isn't it? Closed right in on Caudle, who may have some defending work to do here. The final lap then of race number 2 for the Ginetta GT Academy. Sam Shrimpton here tries the outside line on Julian Wantling. That's for 6th place overall, but he's really targeting Shiv Sapra in the red and black car ahead, who is the rookie class leader. I don't think he's quite going to have time to get to Shiv though. Leaders through the old hairpin, a bit wide over the exit curve for Caudle, but he's not the one being warned about track limits. It's his pursuer who is on his final warning, so Digby has to drive with that in mind on this final lap. Up through McLean's corner they go. This is where Digby, of course, launched that challenge a handful of laps ago. Not quite close enough to do the same this time. James Nicholas very much a part of this picture as well, and as he gets closer to Digby, that takes pressure away from Caudle, really, because the man in the middle is always the one who's got the toughest job, attacking and defending at the same time. He's not really doing either at the moment, though. He's not close enough to attack into the chicane. A good run through the chicane, though, for Digby could change all of that. Didn't really get one, though. Just a bit too hot into the left-hander. That meant he was tight for the right-hander, and I don't think he's close enough to launch a challenge into the Melbourne hairpin. Further back, we've got Joe Edge here challenging Peter Thompson and Robin Grimwood. That's the 9th place battle heading through the chicane, but the leaders have only one more corner between themselves and a checkered flag. And for Jamie Caudle, it looks as though a race win is heading his way. One more braking zone to execute. He turns into the final corner. Really tricky downhill, off-cambered left-hander. He is a bit wide, in fairness. Digby closes in, but he won't quite get there in time. It's victory for Jamie Caudle, 2nd place Charlie Digby, and a brilliant charging 3rd position for James Nicholas from 10th on the grid. Alex Deaton will come home in 4th ahead of Shiv Sapra, who wins in the rookie category. Julian Wantling was next, and then Sam Shrimpton, another good drive from 12th on the grid to 7th position and gets 2nd place in the rookie class, with Ponting, Thompson and Grimwood completing the top 10. After what was another very exciting Ginetta GT Academy race, with Jamie Caudle only by 0.2 of a second claiming the victory, but it doesn't matter. A victory is a victory, and Jamie Caudle will take the 35 championship points for claiming the win. The fastest lap is also worth a point in this championship, by the way. That goes to James Nicholas. So another decent points haul for the man who challenged for the championship last year, but ultimately wasn't quite able to seal it at the final round. For Jamie Caudle, that is a brilliant start to his day. Had a podium at Donington last year, a race win in 2025. Shiv Sapra, in only his 2nd start in the championship, survived a couple of moments in that race, didn't he? But the gravelly trip at the old hairpin aside, it was a pretty strong run that to 5th overall, and the victory in the rookie class. So this is how they finished round number 2 of Ginetta GT Academy. Jamie Caudle the winner by narrow margin in the end over Charlie Digby. James Nicholas came from 10th on the grid to round out the podium places. Then it was Alex Deaton and Shiv Sapra, the rookie winner. Julian Wantling 6th, that's much more like it for the reigning champ. Sam Shrimpton was 7th and 2nd of the rookies. Then it was Nick Ponting, Peter Thompson and Robin Grimwood to complete the top 10. Joe Edge got 11th place, but more importantly 3rd in the rookie class, ahead of Alan Wright. Phil McGarty, Lucy Hodgson and David Duffy were next, ahead of Ben Cook, Louis Darling and Mike West, although all of these were drivers that had issues. Louis Darling off into the gravel on the restart. Mike West and Paul Livesey, of course, tangling in a rather bizarre way down at the old hairpin. So an entertaining 2nd race. They've got a 3rd one still to come later on in the day. Before that, though, let's take a look back at highlights from round 2. The 2nd race of the weekend for the Ginetta GT Academy saw Jamie Caudle and Charlie Digby resume their battle for victory in race 1. This time, though, Caudle had pole position, although it was Digby who had the better initial start. Challenged round the outside at Redgate Corner and continued to do so all the way through the Craner curves. It was eventually, though, Caudle who was able to establish himself out in front, whilst behind there was early drama for Phil McGarty, who got too much curb on cold tyres at the chicane and spun onto the grass. Thankfully, he was able to resume. Paul Livesey's race, though, came to a spectacular end. A seemingly innocuous spin at the old hairpin suddenly became a lot more dramatic when Mike West arrived at speed and couldn't avoid the stationary car. Both cars miraculously recovered to the pit lane under their own steam, but the debris needed clearing, so the safety car was scrambled, after which we had another really dramatic moment at Redgate Corner as Louis Darling's car didn't slow down properly for the first turn and beached itself in the gravel trap. Then a big dive up the inside for the race lead. Charlie Digby couldn't get the car stopped at McLean's, though, handed the lead back to Jamie Caudle, and then had to spend the next handful of laps closing back in on the race leader. We see Hodgson had a rotation all by herself down at the Melbourne hairpin, was able to continue as James Nicholas fought tooth and nail for third position. Try and try and try again. He tried to get past Alex Deaton, couldn't quite do it. He did briefly get by at the hairpin at the final turn before running onto the grass and then making a decisive move a few laps later. It was a close run to the flag, but Jamie Cordell was able to hang on to claim victory in the second race of the weekend, with the rookie class honours going to Shiv Sakra.